labor and the expression of worth. Henry David Thoreau said that it's not until we have lost the world that we begin to find ourselves and realize where we are and the infinite extent of our relations. The forest was wet. Even the twigs would not light fire. The first day, I was unable to light a campfire. The second day, I had a plan. More than a plan. It was a knowledge of what I must do if I were to have a campfire. The knowledge was born of my unsuccessful attempts the day before, and so I gathered the driest grasses, knowing that if I could get them hot enough, the twigs would surrender their moisture and ignite. The burning twigs would radiate enough heat to cook the moisture from the next bigger twig, and so on. There was this deep satisfaction in succeeding at a task that I had failed the first time. The satisfaction was made manifest for me as I stoked the heat of the campfire with my very breath. As I was tending the fire, it started to rain and drove me into my car. But now it's time to go check the fire again. Boots on. Here we go. Still smoking. Yeah, there's still some good heat in there. Some more fuel in there. Fuel that oven. Yesterday I had no fire. Today I have a fire that can sustain itself through rain. These are the types of fires we must build. Can you see that water boiling out of the wood? I stayed with this fire all day. I kept tending it. It brought me great satisfaction. It seemed really worthwhile. It seemed like an expression of worth. A fire, so primal. The smell of it, it was such a good morale boost to have all day long. It really just became almost my entire focus of the day. There were times when the wind really kicked up and it just stoked the furnace in there. It just burned so bright, so red, so hot. Wonderful. The one we call Jesus. He went out to the wilderness. He was out there for so long that everybody who knew he'd gone out there thought, he's not coming back. He fasted out there. He was by himself with all the wildlife and whatever it was he had to work with. And at the end of this time, the evil one, the one who separates us from nature, the unconscious consumer, that one we have called Satan, came to him. And he said, I know you are hungry. Why don't you just make yourself some food, that stuff that everybody has to eat, including you. Jesus didn't bite. Next, he took him up on top of a tall mountain and he said, "Look at all this. This is yours. Wouldn't you love everyone to love you? Wouldn't you love everybody to need you, to adulate you, to be the possessor of all this? I can give this to you." "You know I have no use for that," said Jesus. "All right then, why don't you just kill yourself? Cast yourself down. Because there's nothing left to live for. You're done." "I have come for a purpose. As long as I am here, I will do my Father's will. Thank you for your visit. Please show your way out." And soon he was looking for his brothers, looking for his sisters, saying, "Drop your nets, sons. Come with me. This is going to require your full attention." Many, many people started to follow in the wake of his healings and his eye openings. Great crowds of people were following him. And he turned around and he said, "If you want to be my follower, you have to love me more than anything else. You must come to the end of all of your illusions that the bloodline of your family is somehow more sacred than the bloodline of the One. Even your children, you may disappoint them. Your wife, yes, her too. You're not going to look good. But in the end of all this, you're going to know where to turn. You're going to be ready to come home." So, if you are to be my follower, you must be ready to release all the attachments. Because if you've seen me, what you've seen is the one we've called Father. That infinite stillness, that perfect being, that one who judges not, that perfect light, our true home. Great crowds of people were following Jesus. He turned around and he said to them. People were curious, and a whole bunch of people gathered. And there came a moment when he turned to all of these people and he said, "Look, here's the thing. This is about a full commitment to releasing all of your attachment to your family, all the sickness that you've experienced with your mother and your father, the sickness with your brothers and sisters, the sickness that you've passed on to your children. All of these things, you have to hate these things. You have to move away from these things." He said, "What you see in me is full devotion. This is what's possible when we are fully devoted to this life of non-attachment, to this life of true love, this life of the non-personal, the non-binary, the not two, the non-dual, the I am, the oneness. And he prayed for us that we would know ourselves as the one, as he knew himself as the one. He was the embodiment. And he said, you must give everything to me, to that which you see, to that which you are bearing witness to right now, this great healing power, this great love, this great presence that you are sensing right now. This is what you must, if you are to become this, you must release yourself. You must do your part. You must realize, you must exhaust yourself in this form and be realized as that one love, as I have. For who would begin construction of a building without first making sure he can pay the bills? And what kind of king would ever go to war without checking to see if he can defeat the enemy? No one can be my disciple without first giving everything to me. A rich man came to Jesus saying, Lord, what shall I do? And Jesus said, sell your possessions, give everything to the poor, come back, and we'll talk. The kingdom of heaven is like this. There was a man who found a treasure hidden in a field. In his joy, he went and sold all that he had so that he could buy that field. Labor and the expression of worth. What is it like to exhaust oneself in the giving of everything? And even if one has literally sold all of their possessions, how do we know that we have given everything? These are the really important questions. Can you think of a moment in your life where you gave absolutely everything that you had to a circumstance or a relationship? Have you ever seen yourself make promises that you couldn't keep, or try to be something to someone that you just could not be? Have you ever met someone or encountered an organization that you felt deserved all of your attention, your full attention? What was it like in the giving of yourself to that person or to that job, that institution, whatever it may have been that you chose to give your full attention to? It is through this process of absolute giving that we find our true selves. We give ourselves to many, many things that in the end we find are not quite worthy of our full attention. The teachings of Jesus got my full attention when I was in my early 20s. I allowed that devotion that I experienced to take me where it would. I allowed it to exhaust me. I allowed my devotion to take me down non-conventional paths, to do things that people could not understand. And really, what happened is I got to face all the false parts of myself. Acts of devotion show us who we really are. And as we give ourselves fully, in exhaustion, time and time again, that exhaustion begins to dissolve that in us which is false. Jesus was telling us that all we could see in him was the truth, the way, the life, that anything good that we could see in him was what he called the Father. He was asking for a full devotion to the absolute truth. And a full devotion to the absolute truth leads to a death. We face our own falseness over and over again until eventually we come to trust
Great crowds, people
a righteousness that is not our own.
following Jesus.
We come to trust those
He
depths.
turned around and he said to them, if you want to be my follower, you gotta love me more than anything else. Release your attachment. What you see in me is the presence of the Father.
We begin to recognize our coping mechanisms for what they are, and we release them time and time again.
As he steps out, he says, you know, picking up Miss Rain's song and that ticket, it's kind of like winning the lottery, son. So how's it feel to be the luckiest man alive?
We cease accusations and judgments. We eventually stop trying to make others feel small so that we can feel big. We release suffering in all its forms. We allow ourselves to dissolve into the Great One, the Great I Am. We are not alone, and nothing that is real in us can ever be injured. The deepest aspect of us is inviolate. It cannot be violated. And through all this suffering, we come to know a greater trust in what is real.